Why am I in this trade? Do I think this is going to hit my take profit? Do I think this is going to hit my stop loss? Is this a valid trade? Where is the market headed? Does the dollar correlate? Is there any fundamentals? What is the market sentiment? These are just a couple of questions that you should be asking yourself when you're actively in a position. What's good, my people? It's your boy Daniel FX here. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, please subscribe, please show me some love, and I'm going to continue to drop bangers each and every week. Today's video is all about what you should be asking yourself when you're actively in a position. When you're in a trade, what should you do in your head to make sure that you're in a valid position and to manage that accordingly? And these are just a couple of the personal questions I like to ask myself whenever I come to enter a position or I'm actively in a position. I like to question and ask myself these series of questions. Now, the first and most important question is, why am I in this trade? Now, that's a pretty obvious question, and you may have an answer because the trade is valid, and that is simply the only required answer. It's just, why am I in this trade? It's a valid trade, it meets my trading plan, I'm following my trading plan, therefore I hit the trade. That should be the answer. Now, the reason that that is even a question is because oftentimes, if you have a slip in psychology, if you're doing some dumb shit, you can catch yourself and you can be consciously aware that you've done some dumb shit. For example, if I've just revenge traded, if I've just taken a loss and I immediately re-enter a trade and I then ask myself, why have I taken this trade? I'm going to immediately know in my head, I have taken this trade because I lost the previous trade. I'm trying to chase a loss. And that's how you can kind of catch onto your own psychology. Now, it's not always super obvious for certain people, but for me, it really is. And that's why I've got that question in there. And the second thing I often ask myself is, where is price action in terms of market structure? Are we retracing? Are we correcting? Is price accumulating? Have we just broken out? What is the next likely move going to be? This does link in very heavily to the technicals and like Elliott wave theory, but it's just a general sort of question. Where have I taken this trade in relation to the trend? Are we at a low point? Are we at a high point, etc.? Is it a smart place to execute this position from this certain point in market structure? Now, again, this will probably link into your technicals, so it may be different for your trading plan, but I like to get an idea of what kind of period I am trading in. Now, the third question I ask myself is, will I be annoyed if I hit my stop loss? Will it irritate me if my trade loses? Now, I really try and sit there and close my eyes and visualize, if this trade just reverses on me now, if I just take a quick stop loss and I'm down 1%, 1.5%, whatever I'm risking, will I even have the slightest little bit of regret I entered the trade? Now, the answer for that should always be no. In my opinion, if I've taken a trade, I want to be so confident in the trade, I want to have it meet every single little criteria, that when I enter a trade, if it were to reverse, if it were to hit my stop loss, I want to be sitting there thinking, you know what, it is what it is. And if I were to see this again in a market, I would take the exact same trade and take the exact same stop loss 10 out of 10 times because the trade looked that good. And that's where I want to be at. If the answer is yes, if I ask myself, will I be annoyed if I lose the trade, then chances are I'm probably not that confident to begin with. I probably shouldn't be in that trade, and it's probably an indication for me to look to exit that position, because clearly I should not mentally be in that sort of position. Now, another question I often ask myself is, how am I going to manage the trade? Now, this is something that you're constantly updating throughout the process of your trade because you are reacting to price action naturally. You don't have a fixed criteria of, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, or maybe you do. But for me, I often react to price, but I like to have an idea of what am I going to do as this trade begins to develop. Am I planning on moving my stop loss to break even? After price forms certain structure, am I going to take certain partials? Am I going to extend my target? Am I going to take a fixed take profit? How do I plan to exit the trade? I want to get an idea of the end goal before I look to enter. A lot of traders get into a position, they have a specific target, price reaches their target, and then they don't know how to act. They don't know, okay, cool, should I take profit? But price still looks like it's going to go further, so I maybe want to hold it, and then they hold it, and then price comes back down, and then they should have taken it. They don't have any certain rules, they don't know how to react, and they just simply sit there frozen in headlights. So you need to have an idea of what you're going to do, whether or not you're going to take profit, you're going to take partials, you're going to let it run, etc. But I always like to ask myself, what do I plan to do? Now, last but not least, I always like to ask myself, how do I want this trade to form? Now, as I come to enter a trade, just before I enter it, I'll sit there, shut my eyes for a second, and visualize the next couple of candles. Now, granted, you cannot predict price action candle for candle, wick for wick, even though I have done it a couple of times, but it's the concept that you want to visualize how the trade looks. You want to see it in your head. You want to see the trade play out in your head before you execute it. If you can't see it in your head, if you can't visualize it, probably not that good of a position in my opinion. So I always like to sit there and visualize how the trade has hit take profit, how the trade has gotten there. Did it wick reject? Did it have an impulsive movement? Was it depleting, etc.? I want to visualize every aspect of the movement. And once you do this process for an extended period of time, you get a very good idea of how your setups tend to move. You get a very good idea of how your trades tend to form. And then in future positions, let's say I'm in a movement that's meant to be a breakout impulsive move, and price is not giving me a breakout impulsive move, it's depleting or it's giving me different characteristics. I know that in my head, chances are this is not the same movement that I was previously looking for, and maybe once again it's time for me to reanalyze the trade I'm in and potentially exit. Again, it's all about understanding the characteristics of your trade type. Now, the last question you really have to ask yourself is, why are you not subscribed to the channel? Why have you watched it this far into the video and you haven't just minimized the screen and hit subscribe? Like, come on, please. Thank you. I'll catch you in the next one. Run the outro.